Dental assistant. Billiam, I recently watched a talk show appearance you posted on your Twitter. You mentioned, I did the Willie Hunter show. I was on the Willie Hunter show. And he said you mentioned you were a dental assistant for your father. Did you ever consider becoming a dentist? Did your father ever have ambitions for you to become anything in particular? No, my parents were great. Like they wanted you to they didn't force anything on you. It was like whatever you wanted to do, they supported it 100%. And I remember working with my dad in the dental office when I told him that I was going to become a comedian. We were in like the break room, and I remember I was sitting there like going like, how is this guy going to take this when he has such a classic, like, stable job here? You know, that I'm going to tell him that I'm going to fucking basically try to make a living doing exactly what he's been yelling at me for the last fucking 20 years of my life, which was fucking off and acting like an idiot and screwing around. All the shit that, you know, when he would give me, Christ, hit the books! You're the town clown! When he would be giving me shit, which I totally deserved, because if you ever saw the grades I got in school, I mean, they are horrific. Fucking horrific. The high water mark for me was like a C- or a C. Like it was brutal. I had to go to summer school every fucking year of high school except my sophomore year because my math teacher hooked me up. And my senior year, I should have gone. I just didn't give a fuck. It was like, what's the point? You know what I mean? That's like you got the ball with 10 seconds left, and what are you going to do? You just fucking, you're down by 30. Yeah, just throw up a half-court shot. Did it go in? Who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter, you know? So, no, I mean, for half a second, you know what I did like? I liked the pouring up models when I was in the dental office. That was my favorite thing. I was in the back. I was isolated. I wasn't around anybody. And it tapped into that little kid thing of playing in mud. And he used to pour up the models, and they had this vibrating thing, and you had to tap on it to make sure you got all the bubbles out. And I prided myself on not being able, of having it without having no bubbles. So if you got bubbles, if there was bubbles on the bottom, basically, when they stick that pink shit in your mouth, they got to take an impression of your teeth. Then somebody's got to take that out of your mouth, go into the back room, and then you got to mix this powder with water up in those little green rubber bowls. Jesus, this is all coming back to me. And then you poured it into the fucking impression you took, and then there was this thing that sounded exactly like your cell phone vibrating on a table. And you just tapped it on that to get all the air bubbles out of it. And if you didn't do it enough, after when the thing's set and you took it out, if the bubbles were at the bottom, that's where the teeth were, the most crucial thing, the exact fucking thing they're trying to get a gauge on so they can, whatever the hell they were trying to do, make a bridge or something. The whole thing would be fucked. And then you couldn't go and just re-pour the model into that same mold because somehow, like, it had shrunk up a little bit and it wouldn't be accurate. And my dad used to flip out. He would take them off and he'd be like, Christ, there's air bubbles in this. And it was beyond your boss yelling at you. It was also my dad. So I already had, I was going through my fucking teenage and early 20s when you're rebelling the most against your... I already had to live with the guy, and then I was working with him. It was fucking hilarious. And he used to give me shit, like I was his kid. But we really had... We actually talked about how we had to tone that shit down because it didn't come off as professional in front of patients or whatever. But that was the part. I thought if I ever got into dentistry that I would work in the lab. I liked that part of it. Like... and not just pouring up the models, like the actual, I don't know, there was a precision to it that I liked. I didn't like the front line shit, going in the mouth with all that crap and looking at people's fucking horrific teeth. Just horrible fucking teeth. All my jokes were about that shit when I first started. I told you guys that story, right? I used to work totally clean when I first started stand-up. And not because I wanted to be this comedy purist. I just was afraid of offending somebody in the crowd, getting heckled, not having a comeback, losing my place in my act, and then bombing horrifically and just having my career end. Total fear, catastrophizing, like, way of looking at it. And, yeah, oh, Jesus Christ. That really just fucking brought me back. I was standing on stage at Stitches. Fucking somebody heckled me. I was at the Vault in Boston. Somebody heckled me, and I completely lost my fucking train of thought. And I had nothing, and I didn't. And it took me like basically 3 seconds to remember what the fuck I was talking about, and it was the longest 3 seconds of my life. And I didn't know enough to just say to the crowd, like, "What the fuck was I talking about?" Because they'll tell you, they'll remember. They're not nervous. They're listening. They're not having like this outer body experience. But anyways, I remember people would come into the dental office, and their teeth would just be just what an absolute fucking mess. And they can tell you right now, I hate coming to the dentist. And it's like, yeah, dude, I can smell it. You don't have to smile. I can tell you don't like coming to the dentist. You don't even like fucking brushing your teeth. Oh, this one guy said, this is one of the first jokes I did. So, oh, that's right. So I would work totally fucking clean. And then my last act, and just, you know, when I looked like a young Ron Howard, I looked like Richie Cunningham. And I was totally clean, and I was clever. And I had these perfect talk show monologue jokes. And everyone was going like, oh, dude, you're going to do the Tonight Show, and this is going to be perfect, and blah, 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 blah. And then the last joke in my act, I quoted this patient who kept having to get fillings and root canals. And he said, Doc, you know, I don't understand what's going on. I mean, I brush my teeth almost every day. And then my snappy comeback to that I thought of that later became the last joke of my act. I said, really? Do you wipe your ass almost every time you take a shit? And that's what I would close with after working totally clean. I would say that disgusting line. Do you wipe your ass almost every time you take a shit? Having everybody in the crowd, after looking at this fucking Norman Rockwell come to life fucking character, wholesome as hell, right? And I really was back then, as opposed to the piece of shit that I am now, after 20 years on the road that I became. And I literally, they had to conjure up pictures of somebody skipping, wiping their ass, and just that whole, and they would just literally recoil. Then I would just be like, you know, thanks a lot. Good night, everybody. You were great. And I had another horrible one that I did where I actually brought a prop on stage. And if you'd like to see that, I tell this story on the Willie Hunter Show. And Willie's an up-and-coming comic at the Comedy Store. And he's the guy who threw the hula hoop. Took the hula hoop from that girl and fucking threw it into the street. I tell that story, too. If you want to see that shit, check out his show. I tweeted about it. Anyways, let's plow ahead here. Winding down here on the podcast. Fight question. Bill, so me and this kid decided that we would have a little boxing match. That's funny. How quickly before that went from the parameters that you guys said, all right, no real hitting here, just kind of body shots. How quickly before it turned into just complete anger? Anyways, he said he didn't know that I hated him. Oh, dude, you're evil. You're a fucking evil dude. So me and this kid decided that we'd have a little boxing match. He didn't know that I hated him. Fuck you, dude. You wanted to beat the shit out of this kid. You talked him into it. Just the fact that you said a little boxing match and you're trying to, like, tone down. You and this kid decided that you would have a boxing match. A little boxing match. He didn't know that I hated him, so I was determined to rock his fucking dome. But we start fighting, and he's kicking the shit out of me. That's hilarious. He goes, I finally hit him right in his temple, and his fat ass gets knocked the fuck out. About a week later, he found out that he broke his hand on my face. So he tells all the bitches that he actually won because he broke because he broke his hand and couldn't punch that hard after he broke it. Does that sound like bullshit to you? It kind of seems like you both got what you deserved. You fucking hated him, so you wanted to fight him. Evidently, he's a douche. So he got knocked out, and his hand got broken. He fucked you up a little bit, and then now he's walking around bragging about it. But yeah, it is bullshit. It is bullshit. You won that fight. You knocked him out. You took his fucking punches, and then I just realized I was being an asshole there. You definitely won the fight. And he's fat, so you went in on two different levels. So as far as I see, you got two belts. You got the fighting of the boxing belt, and you got the in better shape than you. So congratulations.